If you want to learn how to take a raw video of a planet, stack your frames, and post-process them all in one application, then this video and AstroSurface may be for you. One of the most common planetary processing workflows over the past decade included the use of PIPP, AutoStakkert, and Registax. But another player surfaced in mid-2020, hoping to replace the functionality of all three previous applications in one, called AstroSurface. Unlike PIPP and Registax, and until very recently AutoStakkert, AstroSurface has been in active development and has improved greatly over the last couple of years. And in this video, we'll do a demo of the entire planetary processing workflow from start to finish in AstroSurface. If you have your own planetary data to work with, please feel free to use that and follow along. If you don't have your own data, then you can use my data of Jupiter that you see in the video. It's 40% smaller due to size restrictions, but you can find the link in the description below, download it, and follow along. So let's get to the tutorial. Okay, you can download AstroSurface from astrosurface.com. The link is in the description below. The current version is AstroSurface Volcano V1, released on October 3rd, 2023, so it's a couple of months old. This gets updated very frequently. From this page, you can access a few demo videos here that covers both DSO and planetary objects, as well as videos on specific features in AstroSurface, such as the PSF creation, wavelet, and gradient removal. And there are also some manual PDF files that you can download and read. So once you download this, you'll get a zip file, which you then extract, and you'll see a folder like this, with astrosurface.exe in it. So you open it, and this is what AstroSurface looks like when you first open it. You'll also see a little post-it note pop-up that comes up here. You can take notes here if you want. It will save it from one session to another, but I don't really use it if I need to take notes. I use Notepad++. This UI can look pretty overwhelming. There are a lot of buttons here, a lot of menu options, but once you get used to it, it's pretty simple. And I'll cover all of the options that you really need to care about when it comes to planetary processing. To open our video file, we click on File, Open File. So once we navigate to our directory, I'm going to click on this one and click Open. You can see a preview of the first frame here, and you also get a little pop-up here for decoder, this is where we're going to set our Bayer level, and we're going to go to the Analyze Register section in a minute. In the player section here, it also comes with a built-in player, so it plays both SIR and AVI files, and you can click on play and see what it looks like. You can stop, you can go through all of the frames here using this slider here. It's pretty self-explanatory. So this option here is pretty much a combination of what you would do in PIPP and AutoStakkert, which is align all the frames of the video and then stack them. So the most important option here is that you want to make sure that the Bayer pattern is set correctly. AstroSurface does a really good job of detecting what the Bayer pattern is, so mine is RGB. If for some reason yours is not selected correctly, make sure it is correct. And then we're going to click on Register. If you're wondering what the Register DS is, it's for Register Deep Sky, where you do aligning using stars. I don't use AstroSurface for Deep Sky, so I'm not going to cover that at all, ever, I think. So click on Register, and that opens up another window here for Analyze and Register Planetary Deep Sky Comets No Rotation. Great. We have some options here to load our calibration frames if we took any darks or flats. If you came to this window from scratch, without doing a video Bayer pattern selection first, you can click on Open Video, and it'll let you select the video here. You can also click on Open Files, where you can select a sequence of files and stack them here. So this window here is neatly numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4, 4A, and 5, so we know exactly what steps we need to go to. So it also tells you some steps here in the console. So it says choose a mode, click a button, disk, planet, or star surface ROI pattern. So once we're here, we're going to click on Detect, and AstroSurface does a really nice job of detecting the planet and only the planet here. So once you click on Detect and you're satisfied with this, you can look at the console for more steps here. It says then double click on the planet to select. So if this is correct, you just double click it and it puts a green overlay over the planet here. So now you know that the planet is selected. And now our option 2 here becomes available. From the two select options here, you have Algo S and Algo C. Algo S is for stars, for deep sky stuff. We're not going to use that. Algo C is for disk or surface with details, and that's what we're going to use. It already knows how many frames we're doing, and we want to stack 50% of the stacks here. So it's going to get 2,500 frames. We'll look at the graphs later, but first we're going to do is we're going to click on Analyze. And this option is the same as AutoStakkert to analyze, so it's going through each of the frames, analyzing to see how clear they are and where to rank them from very clear to shouldn't use at all. So that took a couple of minutes. Depending on how many frames you have, it can take longer or shorter. And now if you want to see what the graph looks like, it doesn't open automatically like AutoStakkert. You can always click on this little checkbox here to open it automatically, but you can also click on this graph C to open it. And this is what the analysis looks like. So we're looking at the 50% of the frames. So what this is going to do is it's going to use all of these frames on this upper left quadrant here. And one cool thing about AstroSurface is that you can actually use these sliders on the left and the bottom to change the number of images or the percentage of images that it uses just by based on this slider. So I can move this all the way up here, and now it'll use 26% of the frames with 1341, and I can use this and go up, and now it'll only use all of these frames here, which is just 369. So I can bring this down here, and you can click on these presets here to go back to the 50% mark, and I think that's what looks pretty good. And then once you're satisfied, you click OK. That if you make changes there, it'll automatically update here. And now we can move on to step 4, where we can select our alignment mode. So you'll see that the stacking method is grayed out, and that's because we're not using the global stack method, which is for deep sky. We're going to use the multi-point method for planetary. And these options here are to set alignment points, or in AstroSurface, they're like more like alignment boxes. So if I click on 96, it didn't really do anything. Sometimes it does something, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intended, but if it doesn't do anything after you click on 96, you click on set, and you can see that it sets all of these boxes here. The smaller the number, the more boxes it'll set. And we'll see now, I click on this and it updates automatically. I don't have to click set. It works, one way or another, but 64 is pretty good. There's a lot of multi-points here. And then click on set. Okay, so this part is done. This is actually pretty fast compared to AutoStakkert, much faster than AutoStakkert, and it does a really nice job of selecting everything we need on the planet. So now we can move on to step 5, which is stacking. So this output image size is just like as video, just keep it as video, which is just, we saw that it was like 808 by 596 or something. So it'll just keep the dimensions of the image as the video. You can also crop in or expand if we need to. Your text in file names is to put a custom text in there. If you click on this question mark, it gives you a little preview on the console here of what it will look like. So if you name it Saturn, your text. So this middle part is what will get replaced with whatever you put in this text box here, which I'm not going to use. Click on align RGB channels, useful for planetary, not for deep sky if you're using AstroSurface for that. Output file, you can do PNG, TIFF, or FIT. I like doing TIFF as I am used to it, and we can put that file into Photoshop if we need to work on it there. Photoshop won't read FIT files. So click on stack, and this will take a couple of minutes. I think the speed of stack is similar to AutoStakkert, but we'll let this go and fast forward. All right, so that took about a minute, and it's stacked. And what that did is it opened up another window here, which I can bring up here. And this is our stacked image of Jupiter. We can now close this, click on exit, since we don't need it anymore. Now, if you're wondering if this is any better than AutoStakkert, and I can show you right now. So if we open up our Jupiter folder, it created a new directory called aligned. So we can open this, go back, and then I did do the exact same in AutoStakkert. Now, if we open the two, I'll tab in between the two. You can see that there's really no difference. It looks like the AstroSurface jumps, and that's because I realized that AutoStakkert cropped in a little bit, so the height of the image is slightly different in AutoStakkert. But in both images, they're centered, and to me, even zooming in, the quality does not look any different. So I'll say that AstroSurface and AutoStakkert stacking is pretty much the same. Up until this point, AstroSurface did everything we would normally do in PIPP and AutoStakkert. And now we can move this into this window here and do some editing. And to do that, you click on Edit. That'll open up a confirmation box. This is a file that's already open. Close it. Yes, so it's talking about this file here. And now it moved Jupiter over there. Now we can close this window, and now we can start working on this here. Going over some of the viewer options here, these are just some levels that you can set for previewing this. You can reset this or look at an inverted image. Not really useful for planetary, but sometimes maybe you'll see something, like a explosion or something. You can also preview some of the channels here, so luminance, red. You have to hold and click and hold these, otherwise they don't stick. We have our zoom options here. By default, it opens at 1 zoom, so this is true dimensions. You can go in, or you can click on this to reset, or click on this to fill your window. For me, it's just a little bit over 1 on this monitor. Under the adjust settings, the only 4 options that we'll be really looking at are sharpen, wavelets, white balance, and HDR. All the other options, for the sake of completeness, I will briefly go over and give you very basic information, but I won't go in depth into any of these options. So feel free to use the chapters and skip forward to when I start sharpening. The adjustment settings are pretty self-explanatory. If you want to rotate, crop, or resize, you can switch between 8-bit and 16-bit here. If you have 16-bit, just stick with 16-bit, it's so much easier. Levels you normally wouldn't do with planets, maybe if you want to play around with it. Black and white point are sometimes useful. I find it useful on Saturn with the rings, but for example, let's say we think that this part of Jupiter is white. We select it, click set white, and it changes the color. We'll come back to that later if we need to. You can adjust the gamma gain. Curves you wouldn't really do on planets, save it for DSO. Noise sharp is a window where you can do some noise and color corrections here, which we will actually do in the wavelet section because those options also exist there. And HDR is a setting we'll come back to later. Local contrast is sometimes useful, especially for like the bands. You can see that sometimes Jupiter looks good with some contrast, but we'll come back to that later. RGB mono if you want to go to monochrome for some reason. White balance we'll come back to this in a little bit. Clean color noise, we'll also see this in wavelets, so I'm going to leave that alone. RGB align, we already did this when we stacked our image, so we don't need to do it again. If you need to split the RGB, work on them separately, you can. If you want to adjust the gain for each of the RGB channels, you can. Saturation is sometimes useful. We'll come back to this later. This option here is new for lunar and solar image deconvolution. I have not used this yet, and it has no use in Jupiter anyway. Now, these are the important options that we'll be using. We'll mostly be using sharpen and wavelets. Under wavelets, we'll also be able to do the deconvolution wider option here. But we'll start with sharpen. That brings up a window here. And we can start making some adjustments to see what that looks like. So I'll just bring up the ADU a little bit. Gain, maybe a tiny bit. And gamma, a little bit as well. Noise reducer, so you can do it. This is a pre-filter, so it will reduce noise based on the other adjustments that we make. So you can just set this beforehand. Clean color noise. We don't really need this, but because it does get rid of color, so be careful how you use this one. So under sharpen, we can set the pixel size on how AstroSurface will do the sharpening. So we'll set this to like, let's say 2.24, but it won't do anything until you change the sharpen percentage, which I will usually start at 50% and see what that looks like. So this looks pretty good. Up to 75. This looks not too bad either. So I guess I'll stick to somewhere here. So that looks pretty good. One thing you can do here is you can save your parameters file. So later on, if you're processing Jupiter again, you can just load the parameters file and then not have to worry about going through all of these sliders all over again. So you can say save P. I already have one from my previous run. Saved it as that, and then so if I loaded it, I could have loaded that and saved myself some time. Once you're satisfied, you click on OK. Then we'll quickly look at some of these other deconvolution options, although we'll not use this. This is the deconvolution wider, which we'll actually be able to do under wavelets. So I'll just cancel this out and look at Richardson Lucy. You can play with these settings as well. Do a calculate. It'll do some calculations for you to try and make it a little bit sharper. To me, this looks a little bit grainy, so I will not use this. I'll click on reset and then cancel. So now we're up to the most important part, and this is what you normally do in Registax. The way we do the wavelets, I think, is a little bit simpler, although there are more sliders. It takes a little bit getting used to, but let's get through them. The offset ADU, I'll usually like decreasing here a little bit. The gain, I'll increase just a tiny bit to make it a little bit brighter. And then the gamma, maybe just a tiny bit as well. Now we have the noise pre-filter. I'll set this to like 1.5, maybe 1.52. You can see that it gets a little bit smoother. So now we have the Winer deconvolution strength here. I'll just set this to like, like one iteration. PSF size, I'll do maybe like 1.4. So this is what it looks like. You can check this box and uncheck it to see it before and after and see if you like it. So I think I like this. Under wavelets, we have the wavelets high frequency and the wavelets low frequency. By default, it starts at 0 and 200 strength. This is new. It used to start at 100 strength, so I guess it goes up to 200% now. So I'll set the high frequency to, let's say, 2. I'm going to bring the strength down to maybe like 50. Yeah, I think this looks okay for me, and I can always uncheck before and after. It's not that much of a change. Maybe I'll go up a little bit more. I think this looks good. I'm just trying to prevent it from getting too grainy, which of course we can fix with the noise pre-filter. Now we have the wavelets low frequency. For some reason by default it starts at 12. Normally you wouldn't really even need this, but I'm going to set this to like 4 and then set the strength to 5. Let me see before and after. So this is after. I think it looks pretty good. Now we have this noise reducer option here. If you read the official documentation, this is in the PDF files. AstroSurface tells you not to use this, which I find pretty funny. But I do think it actually does work fairly nicely for some of them, like if X2. You can play around with this, even though the official documentation says don't use them. Before we close this out, we have the RGB adjustment settings here. We don't really have to do anything here at all because all these options can be found in these sections here, such as the align RGB channel, the gain RGB, the saturation, etc. So I just leave this alone. I don't even go to this tab. And you can always save and load your parameters files if you're trying to save time or you're trying to do batching. We'll click OK. So this looks pretty good so far, but now we want to fix the color. And to do that, I'm going to click on white balance. And as soon as I click on white balance, this is just the default settings, 90% and brightness of 100%. It already looks a lot better, but I like going to 100%, and then I'll do the brightness to like 120, maybe even 130 sometimes. This is what it looks like. You can uncheck the preview to see what it looks like before and after. Click on OK. And the one trick I've been doing lately is you can click on white balance one more time, and I find that it fixes the lighter bands on Jupiter once again. Just a little bit better, a little bit more, a little bit better. And again, preview before and after. I think this looks a little bit more natural. It also aligns with the poll I set a couple of months ago on YouTube where people selected which one looks better. So this one got the vote. So this is my trick. Click OK. You can also get similar results using the black and white points, which I did not do. So if I do this, click set white, it just makes it a little bit brighter. If you want to do that, I'll just click cancel. This looks okay. And as promised, we're going to go back to the HDR option here. I like doing this. If I do this, I do this at the very end. When you first open it, the lowest value of intensity is at 10, but it actually didn't do anything. So to see the difference, I think this could be a bug. You select it to 11 and then set it back to 10, and then it does something, and then the preview option gets, it becomes checkable. And so this looks pretty good, and I like adjusting the range to around like 5,000, give or take. And what that does is it gets rid of some of the ringing around the planet. It's hard to see in the video, but on my screen here, I saw some ringing, just rings appearing out of nowhere. So I think this is it. You can do some color saturation, not much. You don't want to do too much. So like 8 is fine. set for like 5,000. Okay. Okay, so this is good. Click OK. So any other minor saturation changes, you can click on this and make sure you do a pre-filter here, and then you can do some color adjustments here to make the planet look more colorful. So you don't want to do too much again, so be careful, especially with the brightness too. You don't want to do too much, you know, that's way too much. I'll just reset. So the noise pre-filter there, and then saturate at like 10, sure, 7%. And I think that looks pretty good. It looks orangey. Click OK. And I am actually pretty happy with how this looks. You know, I used this with a 6SC with a 3x Barlow, so I am extremely oversampled, but it doesn't really matter as much for planetary as it does with a DSO. But this looks pretty good. If you have multiple files that you want to edit, then you want to process, you can click on these little B options here for batch processing. I'm going to click on a board, and what that'll do is you can select your files and then use your save parameter files to make processing steps on multiple images. Anything without a B can be found under this option here, convert export batch. Most of them have a batch option, but some of them don't, such as HDR. So you saw me use HDR here. So be careful if you're trying to batch like 100 frames. You're going to have to do that manually if you want to apply HDR. So something to keep in mind. So I'm pretty happy with this. Once you're done, you can click on File, Save, or Save As. And I'll save it as Jupiter.tiff. And now you can take this into Photoshop and do any work that you want. So this is what we have, and I'm pretty happy with it. If you have any questions about any of the steps I covered in this video, please ask in the comments below. My current planetary workflow still involves AutoStakkert, so I do my aligning and stacking in AutoStakkert first, and then I move that file over to AstroSurface for post-processing. Although I can achieve similar results in both AstroSurface and AutoStakkert, I'm more comfortable with AutoStakkert, and with the release of AutoStakkert 4 currently in beta, I am very excited to see what the future brings for that application. I completely moved away from Registax at the end of 2022, and the creator of Registax is actually working on a new application called WaveSharp. From the looks of it, it looks pretty interesting, and I think he's getting close to releasing a full version of it soon. So I'm really curious to know what the final product will look like and how it'll compare to AstroSurface. I'm loving all the competition between all of these applications because competition breeds innovation. And I can't wait to see what's in store for us next. Let me know your thoughts on AstroSurface in the comments below. I hope to see you in our next astronomy adventure. Clear skies.